Dr. Kang looked at the black nurse who had just saved his patient's life and said the words that would destroy his career. Did you even go to a real medical school? Or did they let you in to fill a quota? The entire surgical staff went silent. He didn't know I was wearing a 3-carat engagement ring under my scrub gloves. He didn't know my fiancé was Park Ji-Hoon, the most dangerous man in Seoul. And he definitely didn't know that Ji-Hoon was standing right outside the door, watching everything. Some doctors think their title makes them untouchable. Dr. Kang was about to learn he was very, very wrong. Before I show you what happened when Ji-Hoon walked into that room, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. This is African Korean romance, where forbidden love breaks every rule and the most dangerous men fall the hardest. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what the weather's like. Now let me take you back to the moment everything changed. My name is Emmanuella Daniels, and I've been a trauma nurse at Seoul National University Hospital for exactly 3 months. 3 months of proving myself every single day. 3 months of working twice as hard for half the recognition. 3 months of pretending that the whispers and stares don't cut deep. I came to Korea with a dream. A fresh start. A chance to be seen for my skills, not my skin. But some things I learned quickly are the same no matter where you go in the world. The morning it all fell apart started like any other. I arrived at the hospital at 6 a.m., my natural curls pulled back into a neat bun, my scrubs pressed and perfect. I'd learned early that presentation mattered, that I couldn't afford even one mistake. That being good wasn't enough. I had to be flawless. What none of my colleagues knew was that under my scrub gloves, I wore a ring that cost more than most of them made in a year. What they didn't know was that every night, I went home to a penthouse in Gangnam where the most powerful man in Seoul's underground waited for me. What they didn't know was that I was living 2 completely separate lives, and I was terrified of the moment they would collide. Ji-Hoon had wanted me to quit the moment we got engaged 6 months ago. He'd stood in our bedroom, his dark eyes serious, his jaw tight. "You don't need to work, Ella. Let me take care of you." But I'd looked at the man I loved and told him the truth. "I need this. I need to know I can stand on my own. That I'm more than just your fiancé. Can you understand that?" And because Ji-Hoon loved me in that obsessive, all-consuming way that both terrified and thrilled me, he'd agreed. But he'd made me promise one thing. If anyone ever made me feel unsafe, if anyone ever crossed a line, I would tell him immediately. I'd promised. But I'd also silently vowed to handle my own battles. I didn't want to be the woman who ran to her powerful fiancé every time things got hard. I wanted to prove I belonged in that hospital because of my skills, not because of who I was sleeping with. The emergency call came in at 7:15 a.m. Multi-car collision on the expressway. Multiple casualties. All hands on deck. I was assigned to Trauma Bay 3 with Dr. Kang Sung-ho, the head of emergency medicine. He was 52, brilliant, and had a reputation for being difficult. What I didn't know until that morning was that he was also a bigot. The patient came in coding. Male, early 40s, massive internal bleeding. I moved on instinct, my hands sure and steady. I'd been trained at Johns Hopkins. I knew what I was doing. I called out orders to the nurses assisting me, started compressions, prepared for intubation. Dr. Kang walked in and immediately started questioning every decision I made. "Why that dosage? Why that approach? Are you sure you know what you're doing?" I kept my voice calm and professional. "Yes, doctor. This is standard protocol for this type of trauma." He looked at me like I was a child playing dress up. "Standard protocol where?" "Maybe in whatever third world clinic you trained at, but here in Seoul, we have higher standards." Something in my chest went cold. The other nurses in the room looked uncomfortable but said nothing. They never did. I swallowed my anger and focused on the patient. His life mattered more than my pride. We stabilized him. I'd made the right calls. Every single one. The patient was alive because of my quick thinking. And Dr. Kang knew it. I could see it in his eyes. But instead of acknowledging it, instead of giving me even a shred of credit, he turned to the gathered staff and said the words that would change everything. "Did you even go to a real medical school? Or did they let you in to fill a quota?" The room went silent. Someone gasped. I felt the blood drain from my face. I'd faced racism before. Microaggressions. Subtle slights. But never something this blatant. Never something this cruel. And never in front of an audience. I opened my mouth to respond, to defend myself, to remind him that I had graduated top of my class, that I had saved more lives than he could count, that my skin color had nothing to do with my competence. But before I could speak, I heard a voice that made my heart stop. I'd like to hear the answer to that question too. Every head in the trauma bay turned toward the door. And there he stood. Park Ji-Hoon. 6 feet of lethal grace in a perfectly tailored black suit. His hair was styled back, revealing the sharp angles of his face. His dark eyes were flat and cold. And the way he looked at Dr. Kang made several people in the room take an instinctive step back. What Dr. Kang didn't know was that the man who could end his life was standing 10 feet away. Ji-Hoon walked into the trauma bay like he owned it. In a way, he did. The Park family had significant investments in this hospital. Not that anyone here knew that. Not that I'd known that when I'd accepted the job. Ji-Hoon had made sure his name was buried under layers of shell companies and intermediaries. He'd wanted me to have this. To succeed on my own merit. But that protection was about to end. Dr. Kang looked at Ji-Hoon with obvious confusion. I'm sorry, who are you? This is a restricted area. Family members need to wait outside. Ji-Hoon's smile was sharp enough to cut. I'm not family. Yet? His eyes found mine across the room, and something in his gaze made my breath catch. Though I will be in about 6 months. I saw the moment Dr. Kang registered the we. Saw his eyes drop to my left hand, still gloved. Saw him make the connection he should never have had to make. Ji-Hoon took another step into the room. You asked Nurse Daniels where she went to medical school. Johns Hopkins University. Full scholarship. Graduated summa cum laude. Top 5% of her class. Published 2 research papers before she was 25. She has more talent in her little finger than you've demonstrated in your entire career. Dr. Kang's face went red. Now wait just a minute. You can't come in here and... I can do whatever I want. Ji-Hoon's voice was soft. Deadly. Do you know why? Because I own 40% of this hospital. Because the board of directors answers to me. Because one phone call from me could end your career so thoroughly that you'd never practice medicine again. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Dr. Kang's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Around us, the other staff members looked like they wanted to disappear into the walls. In 5 seconds, Dr. Kang would realize he'd made the worst mistake of his life. Ji-Hoon pulled out his phone with the kind of casual grace that made the gesture terrifying. Should I make that call now? Or would you like to reconsider your words to my fiancé? My fiancé. He'd said it out loud. In front of everyone. Our secret, the thing I'd worked so hard to keep separate from my professional life, was out. And I didn't know whether to be grateful or furious. Dr. Kang looked at me with new eyes. Eyes full of calculation and fear. I apologize. I spoke out of turn. Ji-Hoon tilted his head. To whom are you apologizing? To Nurse Daniels. I was wrong to question her credentials. And? Ji-Hoon's voice could have frozen fire. Dr. Kang swallowed hard. And her competence had nothing to do with her race. She's an excellent nurse who saved that patient's life. Ji-Hoon looked at me. Ella, is that apology sufficient? Every eye in the room turned to me. I could feel their judgment. Their curiosity. Their recalculation of every interaction we'd ever had. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to rewind the last 10 minutes and somehow prevent this collision of my 2 worlds. But I also wanted Dr. Kang to understand exactly what he'd done. Wanted him to feel even a fraction of the humiliation he'd tried to make me feel. It's a start, I heard myself say. My voice was steady. Strong. But I think the entire surgical staff deserves to hear it. Since they witnessed the insult. Ji-Hoon didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. His reputation did the talking. Something flickered in his eyes. Pride maybe. Or satisfaction. He turned back to Dr. Kang. You heard her. Conference room. 10 minutes. Gather everyone who is in this room. Dr. Kang looked like he might argue. Then he looked at Ji-Hoon's face and thought better of it. He nodded stiffly and left. The other staff members scattered like leaves in wind, leaving just Ji-Hoon and me in the trauma bay with the unconscious patient and the steady beep of monitors. The moment we were alone, Ji-Hoon crossed the distance between us in 3 strides. His hands came up to cut my face, his thumbs brushing my cheekbones. "Are you okay? You just outed our relationship to my entire department." My voice shook. "He questioned your competence. He humiliated you in front of your peers. Did you really think I would let that stand? I could have handled it myself." "You shouldn't have to." His eyes were intense. Burning. "You shouldn't have to fight battles alone when you have me." "Ji-Hoon, I needed this to be separate. I needed to know I could succeed without your name, without your power, without me." His jaw tightened. "Ella, you're succeeding. You saved that man's life. You made every correct call under pressure. Dr. Kang knows it. Everyone in that room knows it. The only person who seems to doubt you is you." Tears pricked my eyes, and I hated myself for it. "You don't understand. Now everyone will think I only have this job because of you. They'll think I'm using you for. Let them think whatever they want." He leaned down until our foreheads touched. "I don't care what they think. I care about you. And I will not stand by and watch someone disrespect you. Not now. Not ever. If your heart is racing, hit that like button and keep watching." I pulled back slightly. "How did you even know to be here?" His expression went carefully blank. "I was coming to surprise you. Take you to breakfast before your shift ended." I heard him through the door. "And you just happened to know which trauma bay I was in?" "I always know where you are, Ella." He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like his obsessive need to track my every movement was completely normal. And the terrifying thing was, I'd stopped finding it creepy months ago. Now it just felt like love. His twisted, possessive, all-consuming love. "This is going to change everything," I whispered. "Good." His hands slid down to my waist, pulling me closer. "I'm tired of hiding. Tired of pretending you're not mine. Tired of watching you walk out the door every morning and wondering if someone's going to hurt you and I won't be there to stop it." No one was hurting me. He tried to break you down. Tried to make you feel less than. That's violence, Ella. Maybe not physical, but violence all the same. His voice dropped lower, and something darker crept into his tone. "And no one gets to be violent with what belongs to me." There it was. That possessive edge that should have sent me running, but instead sent heat pooling in my stomach. Park Ji-Hoon loved me like a man obsessed. Like I was air, and he was drowning. Like he would burn the entire world to ash if it meant keeping me safe. And the fear that knowledge sparked in me was laced with something else. Something I didn't want to name. A knock on the door made us spring apart. A young nurse poked her head in. Dr. Kang said to tell you the conference room is ready." Ji-Hoon's hand found the small of my back. "Lead the way." We walked through the hospital corridors, and I could feel the stares. The whispers had already started. By the end of the day, everyone in the hospital would know that Emmanuella Daniels, the quiet trauma nurse from Nigeria, was engaged to Park Ji-Hoon. They'd dig into who he was, what he did, the rumors that surrounded his name. And my carefully constructed professional reputation would be overshadowed by the man I loved. The conference room was packed. Every nurse, resident, and doctor who'd been in or near Trauma Bay 3 was there. Dr. Kang stood at the front, his face carefully neutral. But I could see the anger simmering beneath the surface. The humiliation. And I knew deep in my bones that this wouldn't be the end of it. Ji-Hoon guided me to a chair, then remained standing beside me. His hand rested on my shoulder. A claim. A statement. A promise. Dr. Kang thought his position protected him. He forgot that power comes in many forms. Dr. Kang cleared his throat. "I've gathered you all here to address an incident that occurred this morning in Trauma Bay 3. In the heat of the moment, I made inappropriate comments to Nurse Daniels regarding her qualifications and competence. These comments were unprofessional, unfounded, and unacceptable." He looked directly at me. "Nurse Daniels is an exemplary medical professional who has consistently demonstrated skill, knowledge, and dedication since joining our staff. Her race has no bearing on her abilities, and suggesting otherwise was wrong. I apologize publicly and without reservation." The room was silent. I could see the calculation in people's eyes. See them wondering how much of this apology was genuine and how much was coerced by the dangerous man standing behind me. Ji-Hoon's voice cut through the quiet. And it will never happen again. To Nurse Daniels or anyone else on your staff. Because if I hear of any further incidents of discrimination in this hospital, Dr. Kang, I'll make it my personal mission to ensure you never practice medicine again. Are we clear? Dr. Kang's jaw worked. Crystal clear. Good. Ji-Hoon's hand squeezed my shoulder gently. Then I think we're done here. People filed out quickly, shooting glances at us that ranged from curious to resentful to odd. Within minutes, the conference room was empty except for Ji-Hoon and me. I stood up and turned to face him. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. His hands came up to frame my face again. Ella, I know you wanted to keep us separate. I know you wanted to prove yourself without my influence. But the moment he disrespected you, all of that became irrelevant. You are mine to protect. That's not negotiable. I'm not a possession, Ji-Hoon. No. His thumb traced my lower lip, and something predatory flickered in his eyes. You're so much more than that. You're my heart. My reason. The only good thing in my dark world. And I protect what's mine with everything I am. I should have been angry. Should have resented his high-handed intervention. But when Park Ji-Hoon looked at me like I was his entire universe, when I saw that edge of danger beneath his devotion, I couldn't find it in myself to push him away. Even as fear whispered in the back of my mind. Take me home, I whispered. His eyes darkened. Your shift doesn't end for 4 more hours. I don't care. Take me home. Something dangerous flashed across his face. Are you sure? Because if I take you home right now, Ella, I'm not letting you out of bed for the rest of the day. Heat flooded through me, chasing away the fear. Promise? His kiss was answer enough. Possessive and consuming and full of dark promise. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Let's go, he growled. But how does a trauma nurse end up engaged to Korea's most feared mafia boss? Let me show you. We'd met 8 months ago in the most unlikely of places. A charity gala. I'd been invited by the hospital director, who'd wanted to showcase their diversity. I'd almost said no. Almost stayed home in my tiny apartment in Itaewon. But something had made me say yes. Fate, maybe. Or destiny. I'd worn a simple black dress, nothing fancy. I'd felt out of place among Seoul's elite in their designer gowns and glittering jewelry. I'd been standing by the bar, nursing a glass of wine and counting the minutes until I could politely leave, when I'd felt eyes on me. I'd turned and seen him across the room. Park Ji-Hoon in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark eyes locked on me like I was the only person in the room. The intensity of his gaze had stolen my breath, had made my skin flush hot and cold. He'd crossed the room with predatory grace, had stopped in front of me and said 4 words that changed my life. Dance with me, Emmanuella. I'd been so shocked he knew my name that I'd let him lead me to the dance floor. Let him pull me into his arms. Let him hold me closer than was strictly proper. How do you know my name? I'd asked. His smile had been slow and devastating. I make it my business to know everything about people who interest me. And I interest you? From the moment you walked into this room, you've been the only thing I can see. It should have been creepy. Should have sent up red flags. But the way he'd looked at me, like I was precious and rare and worth everything, had made me feel alive for the first time in months. We'd talked all night. He'd told me he was in business. Import-export. I'd told him I was a nurse. We'd danced until my feet hurt. And when the gala ended, he'd asked for my number with a directness that should have been off-putting, but was somehow charming. I want to see you again, Emmanuella. Tomorrow. And the day after that. And every day after for as long as you'll let me. I'd given him my number. And the next day, he'd shown up at my apartment with flowers and a smile that made my knees weak. We'd gone to dinner. Talked for hours. He'd been charming and attentive and interested in everything about me. It wasn't until our 5th date that I'd learned the truth about who Park Ji-Hoon really was. We'd been walking through Gangnam after dinner when 3 men in suits had approached. They'd bowed deeply to Ji-Hoon and spoken in rapid Korean. I'd seen his expression change. Seen something dark and dangerous flash in his eyes. He'd excused himself for a moment, stepped away to handle whatever business they'd brought. When he'd come back, I'd ask the question that had been building. Ji-Hoon, what do you really do? He'd looked at me for a long moment. Then he'd taken my hand and led me to a quiet corner. I run an organization that operates outside traditional business structures. Some people call it the Korean Mafia. I prefer to think of it as providing services the government can't or won't. My heart had hammered. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates in gray areas. I don't hurt innocent people, Ella. I don't deal in drugs or trafficking or anything that preys on the vulnerable. But yes, technically, what I do is illegal. I should have walked away. Should have ended it right there. But I'd looked into his eyes and seen something that made me hesitate. Honesty. Vulnerability. Fear that I would reject him. Why are you telling me this? I'd whispered. Because I'm falling in love with you. And I won't build a relationship on lies. You deserve to know who I am. What I am. And then you deserve the choice to walk away if that's what you want. And if I don't walk away? His hands had cupped my face, and something possessive had flickered in his expression. Then I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy of you. I'll protect you. Cherish you. Love you with everything I am. You'll never want for anything. Never be in danger. I'll make sure of it. I'd kissed him instead of answering. And in that moment, I'd made my choice. I'd chosen the dangerous man with the dark past and the intense eyes. I'd chosen love over safety. Passion over peace. Even as a small voice in my head whispered warnings I chose to ignore. 3 months later, he'd proposed on the balcony of his penthouse, Seoul spread out below us like scattered diamonds. The ring had been enormous. 3 carats of flawless diamond that probably cost more than I'd make in 5 years. Marry me, Ella. Let me spend the rest of my life loving you. Protecting you. Being yours. I'd said yes without hesitation. And I'd meant it. Despite his world. Despite the danger. Despite everything sensible in me screaming to run. Because Park Ji-Hoon loved me like I was oxygen. And I loved him back with the same consuming intensity. Even when it scared me. Now, as we rode the elevator up to the penthouse, his hand tight on mine, I wondered if keeping our worlds separate had ever really been possible. Maybe this collision had been inevitable. Maybe I'd been fooling myself thinking I could have both lives without them touching. The penthouse door closed behind us and Ji-Hoon's control shattered. He pushed me against the wall, his mouth finding mine in a kiss that was more claim than caress. His hands were everywhere. My waist. My hips. Tangling in my hair and pulling my head back so he could kiss down my throat. Do you have any idea what it did to me? His voice was rough against my skin. Hearing him talk to you like that? Watching you stand there and take it because you were trying to be professional. Ji-Hoon. I wanted to break his jaw. Wanted to make him bleed for every word. His teeth grazed my pulse point, and I felt the threat beneath the desire. The only thing that stopped me was knowing it would upset you. My hands fisted in his shirt. I'm not upset anymore. He pulled back to look at me. His eyes were black with desire and something darker. Something possessive and dangerous. No. I pulled his head down to mine. Now take me to bed and remind me why I said yes to a dangerous man. His smile was wicked. Predatory. As you wish. He carried me to the bedroom, laid me on the bed with surprising gentleness. Then he proceeded to worship every inch of my body with his hands and mouth until I was trembling and begging and completely his. Hours later, I lay in his arms, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my spine. I know you're angry about what happened today, he said quietly. I'm not angry. Not anymore. I tilted my head to look up at him. I'm scared. His arms tightened. Of what? That people will think I don't deserve my job. That I only have it because of you. That everything I've worked for will be overshadowed by who I'm marrying. Ji-Hoon was quiet for a moment. Then he shifted so we were face to face. Listen to me, Ella. You are brilliant. You are talented. You earned every single thing you have through hard work and skill. Anyone who suggests otherwise is a fool. And their opinion doesn't matter. It matters to me. I know. His hand cupped my cheek. But you can't control what people think. You can only control who you are. And who you are is extraordinary. With or without me. Tears pricked my eyes. How do you always know what to say? Because I pay attention. Because you're the most important thing in my world. Because loving you means understanding you. He kissed my forehead softly. And I do love you, Emmanuella Daniels. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. I love you too, I whispered. Even when you're overprotective and possessive and slightly terrifying. He smiled against my hair, but there was an edge to it. Especially then. I must have fallen asleep because when I woke, the sun was setting and Ji-Hoon was on the phone speaking in rapid Korean. His tone was sharp. Business. I stayed quiet, listening to the cadence of his voice even though I couldn't understand the words. When he hung up, he noticed I was awake. Sorry. I tried not to wake you. What's wrong? Nothing for you to worry about. I sat up, pulling the sheet with me. Ji-Hoon. He sighed. Some territorial disputes. Nothing I can't handle. Territorial disputes sounds like a euphemism for violence. Sometimes it is. His eyes were serious. Hard. This is my world, Ella. I've tried to keep you separate from it, but you need to understand. What I do isn't always pretty. It's not always clean. There are parts of my life that are dark. I know that. Do you? He stood, pacing to the window. The light caught the tension in his shoulders. Because after today, people are going to look closer. They're going to ask questions about who I am, what I do. And some of those answers aren't going to be comfortable. I got out of bed, wrapped the sheet around myself, and went to him. I knew who you were when I said yes to this ring. I knew what I was agreeing to, the good and the bad. He turned to face me. It's one thing to know intellectually. It's another to have my world touch yours directly. To see what I'm willing to do when someone threatens what's mine. Your world touched mine today when you defended me. And you know what? I'm grateful. Because for the first time since I started at that hospital, someone stood up for me. Someone saw me being hurt and refused to let it continue. I took his hands. That was you, Ji-Hoon. The dangerous man. The Mafia boss. The one who's supposed to scare me. You were the one who made me feel protected. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled me against his chest, his arms banding around me. I will always protect you. Always. Even when you don't want me to. Even when you think you don't need it. You're mine, Ella. And I take care of what's mine. The words should have terrified me. The possessiveness. The absolute certainty. But wrapped in his arms, feeling the steady beat of his heart, I couldn't find the fear. Or maybe I just chose to ignore it. The next morning, I returned to the hospital with my head high and my ring visible. I'd decided during the night that I was done hiding. Done pretending. If people were going to judge me, they'd do it whether I hid the ring or not. At least this way, I was being honest. The stares started the moment I walked through the doors. Nurses whispered. Doctors did double takes. Someone actually pulled out their phone and started Googling Ji-Hoon's name while I walked past. I made it to the nurse's station and found my best friend, Min-ji, waiting with coffee and a knowing look. So, she said, handing me the cup. You've been holding out on me. I wanted to keep it separate. You're engaged to Park Ji-Hoon and you wanted to keep it separate? She shook her head. Girl, that man owns half of Seoul. There was no way that was staying quiet. I know that now. She studied me carefully. Are you okay? What Dr. Kang said yesterday was completely out of line. I'm fine. Ji-Hoon made sure of it. I bet he did. Min-ji leaned closer. Is it true what they're saying? That he threatened to have Dr. Kang fired. He didn't threaten. He stated facts. Ella. Her voice dropped. People are talking. Saying you're using him. That you seduced a rich man to make your life easier. Anger flashed through me. Let them talk. I know the truth. Which is that I fell in love with a man who happened to be powerful. That he fell in love with me before he knew I'd end up working at a hospital his family partially owns. That our relationship has nothing to do with my job and everything to do with who we are to each other. Min-ji smiled. Good. Hold on to that. Because the gossip is going to get worse before it gets better. She was right. Over the next week, the whispers intensified. I heard myself called everything from gold digger to manipulator to worse. But it wasn't just gossip. The racism had changed shape. Become subtler. More insidious. Nurses who'd been friendly suddenly weren't. But they were polite about it. Cold smiles instead of warm ones. Professional distance where there had been camaraderie. Doctors questioned my judgment on cases, but always with careful phrasing. "Are you sure about that dosage, Nurse Daniels?" Instead of, "Good call, Daniels." Dr. Kang avoided me entirely, but I'd catch him watching sometimes. His eyes calculating. Resentful. Waiting for me to make a mistake he could pounce on. The hospital felt different now. Colder. Like I was being observed through glass. Judged not just on my work, but on every breath I took. And I couldn't prove any of it was happening. Couldn't point to a single incident and say, "This is discrimination." Because it was all so carefully done. So subtle. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. Through it all, Ji-Hoon was my anchor. He'd pick me up after every shift, his presence a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. He'd take me home and hold me while I cried out my frustration. He'd remind me who I was and why I was worth more than their gossip. "They're jealous," he said one night as we lay in bed. "They see what we have and they want it. So they try to tear it down. Make it smaller. Make it dirty. Because if they can convince themselves that what we have isn't real, they don't have to face their own loneliness." That's very philosophical for a mafia boss. His laugh rumbled through his chest. "I have layers." "I know you do." I traced the tattoo on his ribs. A dragon that curved around his torso. "Tell me something no one else knows." He was quiet for a moment. "Before I met you, I didn't believe in love. I thought it was weakness. Something that made men vulnerable. I built my entire life on control and power and never letting anyone close enough to hurt me. And now I know that love isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing I've ever felt. And yes, it makes me vulnerable. Because you could destroy me, Ella. Completely." His arms tightened around me. "But I'd rather be vulnerable with you than safe without you. And anyone who tries to hurt you will learn exactly what a vulnerable man with nothing to lose is capable of." The words sent a chill down my spine. Not entirely unpleasant. "Ji-Hoon. Promise me." His voice was intense. Almost desperate. "Promise me that no matter what people say, no matter how hard it gets, you won't leave." "I promise." I kissed his chest right over his heart. "You're stuck with me, Park Ji-Hoon. For better or worse. I'll take both. As long as I get you." 2 weeks after the incident with Dr. Kang, I was called into the hospital director's office. Dr. Kim was a small woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a reputation for being fair. She gestured for me to sit. "Nurse Daniels, I wanted to speak with you about the incident with Dr. Kang." My spine straightened. "Yes, ma'am. First, I want to apologize on behalf of the hospital. What he said was completely unacceptable. We have zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind." "Thank you." She folded her hands on her desk. "However, I'm concerned about the fallout. The gossip. The impact on staff morale." My heart sank. "Are you asking me to resign?" "No." Her answer was immediate. "Absolutely not. You're an excellent nurse, and we're lucky to have you. What I'm asking is how we can support you. Because this situation has been handled publicly and messily, and you're the one bearing the brunt of it." I blinked, surprised. I don't understand." "Emmanuella, your skills speak for themselves. Your patient outcomes are excellent. Your colleagues, when they're being honest and not gossiping, have nothing but praise for your work. The only problem is perception. And perception can be managed." "How?" She smiled slightly. "By making you too valuable to question. I'm offering you a position on our trauma response team. It's a promotion. More responsibility. More visibility. And it comes with a significant raise. If you accept, you'll be leading responses to our most critical cases. Your competence will be undeniable. But people will say Ji-Hoon bought me the position. Let them say it. Then prove them wrong by being the best trauma nurse this hospital has ever seen. Which, from what I've observed, you already are." Hope flickered in my chest. "You really mean that?" "I don't say things I don't mean, Nurse Daniels. So what do you say? Are you ready to stop hiding and start showing everyone exactly what you're capable of?" I thought about Ji-Hoon. About his constant insistence that I was extraordinary. About his faith in me even when I doubted myself. About how he'd stood up for me when no one else would. "Yes," I heard myself say. "I accept." Dr. Kim's smile widened. Excellent. You start Monday. I left her office in a daze. Called Ji-Hoon from the hallway. Ella? Is everything okay? They promoted me. Silence. Then, say that again. Dr. Kim promoted me. To the trauma response team. It's a big deal, Ji-Hoon. It's what I've been working toward. His voice was warm with pride. Of course she did. Because you're brilliant and you deserve it. I'm so proud of you. Tears pricked my eyes. You don't think she did it because of you? No. I think she did it because you're the best nurse in that hospital and she's smart enough to recognize it. This is your achievement, Ella. Yours. No one else's. I love you. I love you too. Now finish your shift so I can take you to dinner and celebrate properly. That night, Ji-Hoon took me to the most expensive restaurant in Seoul. He'd reserved the entire private dining room. Champagne was already chilling when we arrived. This is too much, I protested. Nothing is too much for celebrating you. He pulled out my chair. Let me spoil you, Ella. You've earned it. Dinner was perfect. 7 courses of exquisite food paired with wines I couldn't pronounce. And through it all, Ji-Hoon watched me with eyes full of love and pride. You're staring, I said, blushing. I can't help it. You're beautiful when you're happy. I'm always happy with you. Good. He reached across the table to take my hand. Because I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you stay that way. After dinner, we walked through the streets of Gangnam hand in hand. It was late, the city quieter now. Ji-Hoon's security followed at a discreet distance. I'd gotten used to them over the months. Had stopped noticing the constant surveillance. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything. Do you ever wish you'd chosen a different life? Something safer? More legitimate? He considered the question. No. His answer was immediate. Final. This is who I am, Ella. What I've built. The power I wield. It's not something I can walk away from, and I wouldn't want to. This life, this world, it's what allowed me to protect you when you needed it. If I were just a businessman, I wouldn't have had the power to make Dr. Kang apologize. Wouldn't have been able to ensure you were treated fairly. So you're saying crime pays? His laugh was low. Dark. I'm saying that power, however you acquire it, has its uses. And I'm not ashamed of using mine to protect the woman I love. I'll never be ashamed of that. The words should have bothered me. Should have made me question what I'd gotten myself into. But wrapped in his arms, feeling safe despite knowing exactly what he was capable of, I couldn't find the objection. We walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Ji-Hoon stopped, pulling me into a quiet alcove away from prying eyes. What are you doing? I asked. Kissing my fiancé without an audience. He pulled me close. I've been wanting to do this all night. His kiss was slow and deep and full of promise. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Take me home, I whispered. Always. The next Monday, I started my new position. The trauma response team was elite. For nurses total, all of them experienced and skilled. I was the youngest by a decade. The only woman of color. And I was determined to prove I belonged. The first major call came on my 3rd day. Multi-vehicle pileup on the Gangnam Expressway. 15 casualties. All critical. We mobilized immediately, racing to the scene in the trauma response vehicle. The scene was chaos. Twisted metal. Broken glass. People screaming. Blood everywhere. I moved on instinct, triaging patients, directing resources, making split-second decisions that meant the difference between life and death. 6 hours later, we'd saved 13 of the 15. 2 were too far gone. But 13 families would go home with their loved ones because we'd been there. Because we'd done our jobs. Back at the hospital, covered in blood and exhausted, I found Ji-Hoon waiting in the staff lounge. He took one look at me and pulled me into his arms. Rough day. Lost 2. My voice cracked. But saved 13. Ella, you're a hero. I'm just doing my job. No. He pulled back to look at me. You're doing what you were born to do. Saving lives. Making a difference. Being extraordinary. His thumbs brushed away tears I hadn't realized were falling. I'm so proud of you. Over the next months, I proved myself over and over. Every major trauma. Every critical case. I was there. And slowly, the gossip shifted. Not gone. Never gone. But changed. People still whispered. Still made assumptions. But my work was too good to ignore. My patient outcomes too exceptional to dismiss. The racism didn't disappear. It morphed. Became more sophisticated. A nurse who forgot to pass along critical information. A doctor who questioned my judgment in front of patients. Small things. Constant things. Things I couldn't prove were intentional but knew in my bones they were. I learned to document everything. To anticipate the sabotage. To be 3 steps ahead. It was exhausting. But I refused to let them break me. Dr. Kang transferred to another hospital 4 months after the incident. Officially for personal reasons. Unofficially because Ji-Hoon had made it clear his presence was no longer welcome. I should have felt guilty. But I didn't. He'd chosen his actions. These were the consequences. 6 months after the promotion, Dr. Kim called me into her office again. Nurse Daniels, I have news. Good or bad? She smiled. Very good. We're nominating you for the Seoul Medical Excellence Award. For your work with the trauma response team. Your patient outcomes are the best in the hospital's history. You've saved more lives in 6 months than most nurses save in years. You deserve this recognition. I sat down heavily. Dr. Kim, I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it. Say you'll stand on that stage and let the entire medical community see what I see. An exceptional nurse who happens to be engaged to a powerful man, but whose skills have nothing to do with that relationship. People will still talk. Let them. Your work speaks louder than any gossip ever could. That night, I told Ji-Hoon about the award. His reaction was immediate and overwhelming. He picked me up and spun me around, laughing like a child. This is incredible. Ella, do you know how prestigious that award is? I do. That's why I'm terrified. He set me down, his hands framing my face. Don't be. You've earned this. Every single bit of it. And I'm going to be in the front row watching you accept it with the biggest, proudest smile on my face. The award ceremony was 2 months away. 2 months of preparation and nerves and wondering if I really deserved the recognition. But through it all, Ji-Hoon was there. Believing in me. Supporting me. Loving me with that intense, all-consuming love that had become as necessary as breathing. The night before the ceremony, we lay in bed talking about the future. After we're married, I said softly, what happens then? Ji-Hoon's fingers traced patterns on my arm. I keep building my empire. You keep saving lives. We make a home together. Fill it with whatever makes you happy. You're not going to step back? From the business? He was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to face me, his eyes serious. No. This is who I am, Ella. What I do. The power I wield. I can't walk away from it. Won't walk away from it. This world, it's part of me. And I need you to understand that. To accept it. Something cold settled in my chest. I thought maybe eventually. No. His voice was gentle but firm. I'm not going to become someone else. Not even for you. But I will keep you separate from the worst of it. Keep you safe. Make sure my world never touches you in ways that could hurt you. I swallowed hard. And if I can't accept that? His arms tightened around me, and something desperate flashed in his eyes. Then I'm fucked. Because I can't let you go, Ella. I won't. You're mine now. You agreed to this. To me. All of me. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Should have sent me running. But I'd known from the beginning what I was getting into. Hadn't I? I'd chosen this. Chosen him. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered. Because despite everything, despite the fear that lived beneath my desire, I meant it. He kissed me then. Soft and sweet and full of promise. Marry me soon. I don't want to wait anymore. We said next spring. That's 6 months away. I want you as my wife now. Tomorrow. As soon as legally possible. I laughed against his lips. Impatient. For you? Always. The award ceremony was held at the Grand Hyatt Seoul. The ballroom was packed with the city's medical elite. I wore a deep emerald gown that Ji-Hoon had custom-made for me. The ring on my finger caught the light with every movement. Ji-Hoon sat in the front row, devastatingly handsome in a tuxedo. His eyes never left me. Even when other people approached him, seeking connections or favors, his attention remained focused on me. When they called my name, the applause was genuine. I walked to the stage on shaking legs, accepted the Crystal Award from Dr. Kim, and stood at the podium looking out at hundreds of faces. I came to Korea 18 months ago, I began. I came looking for a fresh start. A chance to prove myself in a new place. What I found was so much more than that. I found a career that challenges me. Colleagues who push me to be better. Patients who remind me why I chose this profession. And I found love in the most unexpected place. I looked at Ji-Hoon. He was watching me like I was the only person in the room. Someone once questioned whether I deserved to be here. Whether I'd earned my place. And for a while, I let those doubts take root. But then I realized something. I don't need anyone's permission to be extraordinary. I don't need anyone's approval to use my gifts to save lives. I just need to show up every day and do the work. Let my skills speak for themselves. And trust that the people who matter will see me for who I really am. The applause was thunderous. I left the stage with tears in my eyes and went straight to Ji-Hoon. He stood as I approached, pulling me into his arms right there in front of everyone. I love you, he whispered against my hair. So damn much. I love you too. Marry me this weekend. I pulled back to look at him. What? This weekend. Small ceremony. Just us and a few close friends. I don't want to wait anymore, Ella. I want you as my wife. I should have said we needed to plan. Should have reminded him about the venue we'd booked for spring. Should have been practical. Instead, I said, yes. Let's do it. His kiss in that crowded ballroom was probably inappropriate. Definitely too passionate for a formal event. But neither of us cared. We'd spent too long hiding. Too long keeping our world separate. Now we were done with secrets. 3 days later, I became Emmanuella Park in a small ceremony on the penthouse balcony. Minji was my maid of honor. Ji-Hoon's brother stood as his best man. Dr. Kim came as my guest, along with several nurses from the trauma team who'd become genuine friends. As the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, as Ji-Hoon kissed me with Seoul spread out behind us, I realized something important. I'd spent so long trying to keep my professional life separate from my personal life. Trying to prove I could succeed without Ji-Hoon's influence. But the truth was simpler than that. I was Emmanuella Daniels, an exceptional trauma nurse who'd earned every achievement through skill and dedication. And I was also Emmanuella Park, wife of one of Seoul's most powerful and dangerous men. Both things could be true. Both things were true. I didn't need to choose between them. I just needed to embrace all of who I was. The brilliant medical professional and the woman who'd fallen in love with danger and found safety instead. Or at least, the illusion of it. Ji-Hoon pulled me close as our guests celebrated around us. No regrets, he whispered. Not a single one. You. Only that I didn't marry you sooner. His hand cupped my face. You're mine now, Mrs. Park. Officially. Legally. Irrevocably. And you're mine. Always have been. From the moment I saw you across that ballroom. I was yours before you even knew my name. Something dark flickered in his eyes. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep you. Whatever it takes, Ella. Remember that. The words sent a shiver through me. Fear and desire twisted together until I couldn't tell them apart. But I kissed my husband under the stars with the city lights twinkling below us and knew that this was where I was meant to be. Not despite the complications or the danger or the gossip. But because of them. Because loving Park Ji-Hoon meant embracing all the messy, complicated, beautiful, terrifying parts of life. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Months passed. The hospital remained cold. The racism didn't stop. It just got quieter. More careful. I documented everything. Kept my head down. Did my job better than anyone else could. And every night, I went home to the man who owned me. Who would burn the world for me. Who loved me with an intensity that both thrilled and terrified me. Ji-Hoon never softened. Never stepped back. His business grew. His power expanded. And I learned not to ask too many questions about the calls that came late at night. The meetings that couldn't be rescheduled. The blood I sometimes saw on his knuckles that he'd wash away without explanation. But he was mine. And I was his. In all the dark, twisted, beautiful ways that mattered. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. And subscribe to African Korean Romance for more stories that will absolutely wreck you in the best way. Thank you for being here. From wherever you are in this beautiful world, I'm sending you love. Until the next story, remember, the best love stories are the ones that shouldn't be possible.